Hello, hello. This is Michelle Drew, and I'm your host on From a Mess to a Message, where I interview inspiring people who have gone through a messy time in their life and they've come out on the other side with a message of hope. So, a mutual friend, wonderful friend, introduced me to today's guest. We got on a Zoom about a month ago to kind of talk through this, and we connected instantly. I think you're going to love her. She has gone above and beyond getting through the grief of losing her son, and has a message of hope and inspiration for everyone. So Susan, thank you so much for agreeing to share your story today. Susan Lataille, everyone.
No, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Michelle, for having me. It's always a pleasure to be able to share my story
yeah,
and have
yeah,
platforms like this and people like you that are doing the work. So
yeah. Thank you
thank
so
you for what you
much.
do.
Could you introduce us to your beloved son, Nathan? I would love to meet him.
Sure, my
Please.
son's name was Nathan Cottrell, and he was actually born in Spain on a naval base.
Wow.
I was serving in the Navy when I married and got pregnant. So we were there, so that's where he was born. It was funny, like he would tell people that when he was small, and they go, "No, you weren't. You weren't born in Spain," because he used to like to make up stories besides. So so he was actually born in Spain. He didn't come to the United States till he was 3 months old because
Oh,
that's the earliest he could travel was 3 months old.
okay.
So
Gotcha.
so yeah, so that was interesting. He grew up basically here in Rhode Island,
Okay.
and struggled a lot with school, being ADHD. The kid was a ball of energy. As soon as he could walk, you'd put him down anywhere and he would be off. Like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I remember the first time I did that, I was in a mall. I'm like,
Oh God.
yeah. It's like, okay, you gotta run, get him, get him. It's like, okay, I can't do that. Um, no, but he always had such high energy. He loved all sports. He loved playing them. He loved watching them. And, as a child, I let him try everything he was interested in. He wanted to
Great.
do karate, he did karate. He wanted to do soccer, he played soccer. If he wanted to, play hockey, he played hockey. And then I alongside him, I would when he was doing karate, so was I.
Oh
When he was
wow.
playing soccer, I was playing on the adult team. So it was nice to have that interaction and doing the same sports. I did not do hockey though.
No.
No, no, no,
You
no.
have too beautiful a smile to mess with that.
And that, really haven't skated since I was a teenager, probably.
Yeah.
I tried once with him. I took him to a skating ring and let him, practice. So I'm like, I'll put on skates. Yeah, not a good
Yeah.
idea.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But he also had, this really loving side of him that he always put people before himself. Always took the blame. If somebody was going to get in trouble, he was going to be the one that made sure he got caught, or he was the one that got in trouble. He was
Wow.
very protective over his friends and family. So
Wow.
it's
That's unusual. Not the
exact
protective part.
right.
Not the
Right. I'm
protective
like,
part, but
why is it you? Mom, I really didn't do it. I'm like, yes, but you're the one who got caught. You're the one, and it was just it was just funny. But
that's
he was just this lovable, affectionate child, even with my family, who that's not how they are. You could see as he'd go and hug them or kiss them or even say, "Oh, I love you," they'd cringe.
It's like, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. He was just really a bright soul who really did light up the room wherever he went. I know
Wow.
I hear that so much, but it really was. He had that big smile. I guess he gets that from me.
I would say. I would say for sure.
So he was just,
Yeah.
and his father and I divorced when he was very little. And that really, really impacted him.
Wow.
is because his father didn't live local. His father was still in the Navy. He retired after 20 years and then moved back to his hometown in Michigan. So
Oh,
he was constantly traveling to visit
right.
his dad and his family, and then living with me until he was about 13. It was time he needed his dad more. And me
Ah,
being a single parent, and he was getting in a little bit more trouble than was
yeah,
acceptable and everything else. So he actually went to live with his dad at the age of 13.
gotcha.
Um, so where again he continued playing sports. He ended up being a wrestler in high school, and did well.
Good,
So he
good.
just, he just, but he always had that dual thing. He wanted to be here in Rhode Island, but he also wanted
Mhm.
to be in Michigan.
Yeah, that's
And
gonna be tough.
it was always really hard on him. I remember when he was small, he'd come back from his dad's and he would just cry.
Oh,
And I would hold him and cry right along with him
yeah.
because I
Oh,
could feel it. Like everything he felt, I felt. So
yeah.
it's just one of those things, when you have children, you take on whatever is going on with them.
Right, right.
So as he progressed, when he graduated from high school, just because of his ADD and wanting to be here, wanting to be there, further education wasn't in the picture. So he'd come here and work in the summer, landscaping or doing whatever, because he loved being outside and he was moving,
Yes,
loved to
yeah,
be able to move.
yeah.
And then in the wintertime, he would go back out to Michigan and, find some kind of job there and just keep
Yeah,
bouncing back and forth. And he did that for years
right.
until 2014. He had been away for actually a couple of years at that point, and he came home because his father and his stepmother said, we can't handle him anymore. We don't know what's going on, but he's extremely confrontational and this and that. So sure, send him home to mom.
Yeah, right. Mom can do it.
Mom to do it. And which I'm extremely grateful that they did, because about 6 months after he was home, they found a brain tumor, which explained his confrontation and everything else that was going around him. Because I remember when he first walked through the door coming home, and I'm like, what happened to him? Like he was so drastically different from that loving, affectionate child to argued everything, didn't want to be touched anymore. I was like,
Wow.
what happened to him? Like I had no
Wow.
idea. And as time went on, he was complaining about headaches. I'm like, please go to the doctors. Please go.
Mm,
And he's like, no, 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 I don't want to. I don't want to.
wow.
And finally, my husband and I were going on vacation, and luckily not far. And I said to him before he left, I said, look, I know something's going on with you. I don't know what it is, but if you're not going to do it for you, please do it for me,
Yes.
because I can't watch you do this anymore, because I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
It was very scary for me to witness going, I don't know what's wrong.
Yeah. And at this point, he's in his 20s, so you can't like
Right.
mandate you have to go,
Right.
right?
He was 26 when he was diagnosed. So here he finally, so the night that we left for vacation, he went to visit some friends. And after he left there, he had a seizure and got into a minor accident. Like he didn't get hurt. He totaled the car because he just like kind of bounced off other cars
Yeah.
and totaled the car. And when the, emergency team arrived at the scene, they're like, something's clearly wrong with him. He's not drunk. He's not this. He's not that. We need to send him to the hospital. And that's where they found it. So at 2 in the morning, I was receiving a phone call from a nurse. No, from the police department saying I had to call the nurse at Woonsocket Hospital at that point.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay,
So he never did agree to go on his own to the doctor. It was
no,
that
no,
minor accident that,
yeah,
uh,
I figure, subconsciously he
yeah,
did. He did what I asked him to do.
yeah. Yeah.
So, and thankfully he did, because, once they, you know, did an MRI, they said he needs to go into emergency surgery. Here it is, a Saturday, early Saturday morning.
Wow.
And his surgeon is like, he goes, I need to put a team together. We'll keep you posted as far as what's going to happen, but it needs to be soon.
Wow.
And the compassion of this surgeon was very touching. I mean, after, he told me what was happening, he said, I'll treat him like he's my own son. And he gave me a hug.
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
what doctor? It wasn't
Yeah.
my experience with doctors,
No,
certainly over the years.
no.
So I was really touched by that.
Yeah.
And he said, if we didn't operate when we did, it would have just exploded and he would have just died instantly, and we never would have known what was wrong with him.
Right.
So,
Right.
so gratitude is certainly something that I constantly go to, in
Yeah.
just being grateful how everything happened. You
Yes. Yes.
because there's so many different scenarios that could have
Right.
happened
Right.
at that time. I mean,
Right.
he could have been on the highway and got into
Yes.
an accident and
Right.
got killed that way. We
Yeah.
never would have known.
Or killed somebody else, if
Right.
because
Or hurt somebody else.
yeah.
Yes, which would have
Yeah.
been
Because the ripple
horrible.
effect of that is, far
Right.
reaching as well.
Yeah. I had never even thought about that.
Well, aren't you glad we had this chat today?
Yeah. So, but I was really, really grateful that the way things happened, at least I was still able to have him for like 2.5 years from that point.
Okay, I was going to
He
ask
went
you
through,
that.
yeah, he went through treatment, and then about 2 years to the date, he needed a second surgery. It had grown back.
Oh,
And at this point, it was a glioblastoma. And after the surgery, he only lived a few months.
oh, yeah.
So
Wow.
it was just grew
Wow.
back really, really fast. So that
Wow.
that was March of 2017.
Okay. So after the surgery, did his personality go back to the loving?
No,
No, it
no,
didn't.
unfortunately, it never did.
No.
It never did.
Oh.
Except when he texted me. You could always see a glimpse of it in the I love you moms, or questions he would ask me, or things like that. But he
Oh,
but he never did. And he knew he couldn't help it.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember being at Thanksgiving right after his surgery, and he sat there as miserable can be. And when we got home, I'm like, Nate, he goes, I'm sorry, Mom, I just can't help it.
Wow.
Like, he just had no power over any of that. So
Yeah.
it really made him, a person that nobody recognized.
Yeah. Not even himself.
Right, not even
Yeah.
himself.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that there was still that knowing in his mind that
Yeah.
this is not who I am,
Right.
but I can't help it. I can't bring
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
personality that, wow, that had to be
Yeah.
tough on him and everybody around him, I'm sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was, and it was tough on me, because I was his primary caretaker, and I'm the one that had to take him to all the doctor's appointments, and I'm the one who had to, okay, we got to go here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just the constant, in the beginning, more battling, just, but I finally realized, once he had something in his mind, he wasn't letting go.
Right. Right.
I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that's
Yeah.
it. I got it. I understand. I'll just listen.
Yeah.
I'll just listen.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that attitude on your part probably gave you opportunity to create more memories with him than if you were
Yeah,
constantly battling and fighting.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good for you. Good for
yeah,
you. So now fast forward to, after you got through, the losing him and the grief of it all, and all of those emotions that I'm sure happen. I have not experienced the loss of a child. I don't have children. So, after you get through that, share with the world what you've done with that messy part of your life, and what you're doing today to help so many.
and that's the thing. There is no through it. There
Yeah.
is, there is, it's not like, oh, okay, I went through this stage of grief in my life, or the stages of grief, so to speak, and I did this and I did this, and all of a sudden now I'm out on the other side, and okay, that doesn't, I'm done, I'm healed.
That's a really
Unfortunately,
good point.
unfortunately, as much as, we would like to say, okay, yes, am I in a much better space? Oh my God, absolutely. But grief is a process,
Mm,
and it takes, I believe, a lifetime,
yeah,
because I'm never going to stop missing him. I'm never going to stop wishing he was here. I'm never going to stop wishing that I'd be able to be a grandmother.
yeah,
I'm never going to, seeing his smile, and he was my only child.
right.
So that's never going to go away. Have I made peace with it? Pretty much.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes, I have. I mean,
yeah,
I understand, and luckily I'm someone who can hear him. Like,
yeah.
he's lectured me more than once. And, even like in the beginning, he's like, because no matter what I did, it didn't help, because I'm very much of the holistic mind,
Yeah,
and anything I tried, it just wouldn't work. He goes, Mom,
yeah,
I was meant to go.
yeah.
This is just
Wow.
what was meant to happen.
Wow. Yeah,
And I appreciate everything that you did for me.
yeah,
That, so I think knowing that too helps a little bit. So I'm not there going, oh yeah, well, what about this? What about this? What about this?
yeah,
What if things would have been different? Not saying I never have gone down those roads. I have,
yeah,
although I think I've come to a place now where this is just what's meant to be. And
yeah.
I wouldn't be helping everyone I'm helping now if it weren't for that
Right,
loss.
right. And
So,
that's the thing. It's like when you can look back and say, okay, there was a reason for this. It was
yeah.
supposed to happen. And I love that he tells you that and that you are intuitive enough to listen
Hmm.
because so many people are not. And
Right.
that's got to be so healing for your heart as well.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, I think about that, I was doing event production prior to and right after, he passed, and I knew I didn't want to do it anymore. And I knew, I'm also somebody who likes to take personal experiences and turn it to help others.
Mm.
And that's exactly what I did with this.
Yes. So talk to
So,
us about your business now. And yeah, I know you've written some books and you help others to kind of get through their grief. So talk us. No, I'm sorry, I don't mean to say get through it. You changed me. One thing that you said is change will change me forever. And that's what I love taking things like that from these
mm,
interviews to say, okay,
right,
Michelle, that's a lesson. So how
right.
you're helping people to deal with the loss of their loved ones and talk to us about all of that you're doing now. I love it.
Yeah, so in 2021, I decided, okay, it was time. I was about 4.5 years into my grieving process, and since he passed, and COVID gave me the ability to do that. There's again with the gratitude, being grateful that it allowed me to stop. It allowed me to put that event production behind me,
Wow.
and really heal. It gave me a huge opportunity to really focus on my healing and what I was going through, because looking back, I was in no shape to do anything. There's the brain fog and the fatigue and the everything else that goes along with it, that I don't think I could have done the event production much longer, even if I, was able to.
Yeah.
So
And it
finally
would
in
be a way for you to kind of like self-medicate in a way, like just dive into something else and,
right,
just forget about that. It's like,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But so you put the event planning aside.
Put that
And
aside, kind of floundered around during, the beginning of COVID, tried a few things, just to give me something to do. I knew it wasn't what I was meant to do. I was just waiting to be ready.
yeah.
In 2021, I finally said, okay, it's time. So I became a certified master grief coach. And then once I did that, I'm like, okay, what do I want to do with this?
Mm,
Do I want to coach people one-on-one? I was like, yeah, that would be okay. Although I feel like there's more here. Like, what else can I do? And I had participated in a book as one of the authors and one of the writers. And I'm like, I I wonder if I could do that. And I really, really felt like it was guided,
Mm.
so I looked at that experience and it was an amazing experience. It was a great learning experience. I got to figure out how to do this from my own experience. And
Yeah,
it was more or less, okay, in a perfect world, what would I want? What would I have wanted from this experience?
right, right.
And that's what I created. I thought everything was guided. I mean, I literally laid everything out, and I've used that process since.
Yeah. And when you are guided like that, it's like the right people, the right circumstances just
Yeah.
land in your lap unexpected, unannounced, and you're just like, wait a minute, where did this come from? Is that what your experience was?
It was, and putting together the first 10 authors, these were all people I knew. I
Yeah.
knew they had significant losses in their life, and I reached out to 13 people, and 10 said yes.
Wow.
And well,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, these were people that trusted me,
Yeah.
knew what I had done in the past. If I said I was going to do something, they knew I was going to follow through.
Yes.
So these were people that completely understood and they could see my vision.
Yeah. And they knew that you had been through it too. So
Right,
there
because
must be
and
that
then
kind
my
of bond.
story also went in that book.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it was in that book. So there's two shining a light on griefs, book one and book two. So I did it again. Then after the first book, I'm like, okay, let's do this again.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I put together another 10 authors, and now I understood a little bit more. And what I found about myself was that I'm able to guide these people, well, women in those books, to really dig deep and
Mm.
really get feeling and emotion out. Because what I found was that most people, they can write details, and that may be hard to write the details because they're only writing the details. They could be
Mm.
crying as they're writing, but they're not writing what they're feeling.
Mm.
So for me to be able to go back in and go, okay, what can you like tell me what was going through your mind? What were you feeling? What were the emotions?
Yeah.
Even if somebody put emotions, what were those emotions? Emotions can mean so many different things.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so yeah,
And
so it was beautiful to witness the transformation of the people that have gone through this process, because it's so different from where they start to where they end.
that trend, you probably can't put a price tag on witnessing that transformation for
Oh,
people.
no.
Wow.
And at the end of it, it's out there for people to read. So it continues to give back. It
Yeah.
continues to help other people that are maybe newly bereaved, maybe just starting the process.
Right.
What I also found was it didn't matter how long you've been grieving. My longest author had been 30 years.
Wow.
She lost her
Wow.
fiance tragically in a fatal accident, to a year, and everything in between. So
Wow.
just depending on who I was working with and the books.
That's encouraging. Because if people don't know that these services are available to them, it could go 30 years. I mean, my cousin lost his 16-year-old son in a terrible car accident,
Mm,
and I don't think he's gotten through the healing. I think it still is an open wound for him.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's encouraging, for some of the people that I know in my world that, I could reach out to them and say, listen, there could be an answer for you to help
yeah.
you through it. And
Well,
yeah,
yeah. What I've come to see is that so many people just put it on the back shelf.
yeah,
That, okay, I need to continue to quote live
yes,
over here, so I'm just going to put it over there and do my best not to think about it.
yeah,
And for me, I'm constantly, so I've been able to process much more of my grief than probably your average person,
right.
because I'm constantly talking about it. It's constantly in my forefront. I'm constantly processing
Right.
where because I have to face my own. When I'm reading these stories, they hit home
Mm.
so much and so often, and understand what these people are going through in their own process.
Right, right. And once somebody I interviewed said something to me similar to you saying you don't get through the grief. I'm like, okay, we're going to store that away for the future. She said, we love to talk about our loved
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
keeps them alive. It keeps them
Right.
present and in our hearts, right? Like it's
Right.
not like we
Right.
forgot. So when
Right.
people avoid the conversation, it's not like they forgot. Have
No,
the
no.
conversation, ask about them. And now, do you feel that you're giving people the opportunity to keep their loved ones alive in through their stories in
Absolutely.
the book?
Yeah,
How
that's one of the
beautiful.
big things is so many people want to share their loved one's story. You
Yeah,
know, the processing of the grief is really kind of like a side effect in a way,
yeah,
because the goal is they want to document their loved one's story. It's not so much about their story, it's about the loved one's
yeah,
story.
yeah,
And what happens in the writing of it, grief starts to come up and it starts to get processed and it starts so, and again, everyone is different depending on their experience and how the person, died and everything else that, some people are going to be in a r- serious state of grief for probably the remainder of their life.
right, right.
It's just because. And
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. I
no.
think, I do my best to meet people wherever they are truly and hold them in that space of compassion and
Mm,
knowing that this is their journey and they get to choose how they go on that.
yeah.
They
Wow.
it's not me to say, "Oh yeah, you need to heal." No. No,
Yeah.
this is your journey and you get to live that the way you see best.
Wow, that's so beautiful. It's we're so lucky to have people like you who are
Oh, thank
willing
you. Thank
to
you.
do the difficult. It's got to be hard talking to someone who recently, like a year ago, lost a child or, a fiance in a tragic accident. It's
Yeah,
got to pull on your heartstrings a lot.
it does, especially my latest book. I've had the opportunity of working with the Maddie Potts Foundation, and
Wow.
and that book is all about child loss, many of them suddenly, most of them
Wow.
suddenly. So
Wow.
so there it's different, losing a child no matter what is really hard, and processing that grief is really hard. Losing them suddenly would be harder because I'm grateful that I had that opportunity to, to spend with him. Although I have a friend who said she's glad that she didn't have that it happened suddenly versus having the prolonged illness. So
Wow.
we're
Yeah.
all different and we
Yeah.
all perceive it differently.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. So is there anything that you hoped that we would have delved into that we didn't get a chance to talk about today? Anything that,
the only other thing I do is I've also had the opportunity to work with the Gloria Gemma Foundation.
oh,
So there, I'm finishing up a second book of love and loss. So keeping, again, uh, memories alive of people who died to cancer. And
yeah.
then the second book I did with them was stories of breast cancer journeys. So I had 14 women who shared their breast cancer journeys in that one.
Wow.
Yeah, that one was remarkable too.
Wow. That's
And
fantastic.
yeah, so the third one will
Fantastic.
be published in October, and then the Maddie Potts will be published around the same time.
Wow. Wow. As I'm talking to you, my brain is making a list of people who I have to introduce to you that could benefit so greatly from the work that you're doing. And I'm sure our audience is doing having the same experience. Like, oh my God,
Yeah,
I
so
this person
so
can.
so that to continue to make an impact and reach more people, I'm looking for more organizations, because by working with these organizations, I can reach more people that I can't on my own. And then it gives them a resource. It gives
Yeah,
them something that they can always have for future people that are going through similar experiences, so that they don't feel alone. They feel like, there are people that understand,
yeah,
that have gone through the same thing, and to offer them hope and inspiration, to
yeah,
really say, hey, if all these people have done it,
mm,
maybe I can too.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
I can too. But hopefully it just gives them that glimmer of hope that they can, maybe they'll take a tip that somebody else
mm,
wrote about, or something that helped them. Maybe it resonated with them. They say, yeah, I think maybe I'll try that.
yeah.
Maybe
That's
I'll
so
try
good.
writing my story. Maybe I mean, you don't need me to write your story. Anybody can write their story on their
True,
own.
true.
So because not everybody wants their story to be in public.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And as you're talking through all the amazing things that you're doing, I can, I mean, this YouTube channel is all about the ripple effect. And
Right,
you change one person, the ripple effect of that one human
right, right.
is
Yeah.
never ending, because the generations to come, it's going to change the family, the friends, the circle. And
Right.
I love, love, love the work that you're doing. I'm so glad that Joni introduced us.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
Joni's great
glad.
about that. Yeah. Because
Yes.
I also work with individuals if there's somebody who just wants, some guidance, and one, writing their story, but also using it as a tool to help them process grief.
Yes, yes. And some of the stuff that I'm doing moving forward, becoming a transformational speaker, I can see some of the people that you're working with taking their story on the
Mm,
road to, so to speak. I mean, whether it be on
yeah.
podcasts or, actually speaking to transform people who are maybe experiencing the same thing.
Right.
So, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah. So, where can people find you? I'm going to put all the links to all your stuff in the show
Okay.
notes, but just so that they have it, because this isn't going to go live until July. But where can people find you?
Shiningalightongrief.com.
Yeah.
And also, on Facebook, I have a page for Shining a Light on Grief. I also have my personal page, which is Susan Lataille, and same thing with LinkedIn is Susan Lataille.
Yeah, yeah, perfect, perfect. Well, this has been beyond a pleasure.
Oh,
Um,
thank
I
you.
I'm so grateful, and I believe that even just with this channel, with this interview, I believe that you're going to touch so many lives, and the ripple effect of that is going to be huge. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy you invited me.
yes, me too. Me too. Thank you so much. Bye bye, everyone.